Rockford Choral Group, established in 2019 to enrich and inspire our community through choral music, enters a new era. WIFR's Shakara Gendron takes us inside the group's special rehearsal in anticipation for its first performance next week.
The Nielsen Chorale is gearing up for its first ever standalone concert Sunday, April 19th, under new artistic director Joel Ross. Voices of Hope and Promise.
There's been a lot of behind-the-scenes work, working with the youth choirs, Cantorai, the Auburn Choir, the Guilford Choir, and then the Nielsen Chamber Choir.
This performance will honor the rich choral heritage of the Rockford community. It features the newly formed chamber choir of about 40 singers, along with other professional instrumentalists and soloists, including those from the Rockford Symphony Orchestra.
Lots of moving parts, but when it all comes together, when the voices of children and the voices of adults blend like we heard in rehearsal today, it's really quite magical.
One of the local groups taking the stage will be Cantorai. For the choir's co-artistic director Jessica Koenig, the experience is personal.
What's really cool about that for me is providing opportunities for children in the area. I'm an educator, and I'm also the mom of 2 of the Cantorai members. So it's really important to me and really fulfilling that I get to sing not only with my friends and colleagues who are adults, but also my children and their friends as well.
Ross says he has one goal for everyone who plans to attend.
I want them to feel like they have been enveloped in this wonderful choral sound, voices of youth, voices of adults that are blending as one and speaking to our hearts individually and collectively.
In Rockford, Shakara Gendron, WIFR News.
Voices of Hope and Promise will be at 3 p.m. Sunday, April 19th at Our Savior's Lutheran Church in Rockford. The concert's free and open to the community.